a reminder that this meeting is being recorded. And Josh, I see your name up there. You're on, right?
Yep, I'm here.
Right, great, thank you. So it looks like we have everybody here except for Darren tonight. Maybe he'll still join, but I do want to just let you know that we do still have a vacancy on the committee. I was informed by the council president the other day that he's had 3 or 4 people express interest. One of them, I guess, had to retract their. So he's got 3 people right now, and he's planning to make an announcement at the September 8th town council meeting as to, his appointment for us. So we'll have to wait till then, till we get a new member on. All right. Have you all had a chance to review the minutes from our last meeting? Okay. Someone like to make a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
All right.
Just
Is there a
need to state
second?
your name.
My bad, Josh. I, Thomas Golden, make a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Thank you.
I second it. Steve
Yeah.
will second it.
Yep, thank you.
All right, Steve, thanks. Any discussion on the minutes? Okay, then we'll have to take a roll call vote to approve. Josh?
Let's start with you, Ed.
Yes.
Leonie,
Yeah.
Steve,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
Okay, they were approved. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Josh. All right, next item on the agenda is public comment. I see that we have Bill and Merrilee on. Would either of you two like to say anything? And if you do, just to remind you, it's 3 minutes and there will be no response back from the committee. So, Bill?
Thank you. Bill Wood, 388 Hayward Street. Some of you know me, but I don't know all the folks like Tom and others. But I served on the town council when we brought the first charter review up before the council. And I'd also served on the Rules and Procedure Committee for about 9 years throughout the process of building the administrative code and the changing the bylaws into ordinances, this sort of thing. I probably, for the charter piece, I probably have a couple hundred hours of background. When we went with the recommendation of the prior charter review committee and brought it up for the town vote and this sort of thing, I put together a slide deck and a presentation that I presented 3 or 4 times, and we've done some hearings prior to that. So I'm pretty familiar with the charter as it previously was, with the recommendations previously, and some of the work that you're probably going to undertake. I know that according to the agenda, there's you're looking for some input from various people. I consider myself a subject matter expert on the charter, and with the presentations that we gave before, I make myself available to the group here. I know you're having interviews with various people. I think that I could probably sit in on one of those sessions for you, and I'm busy throughout the next month or so, but maybe later in September, October timeframe would be good. As I said, we did presentations on all the aspects of all the charter changes that were presented before, not just 1 or 2, but all of them, trying to educate the people. And I got a lot of good feedback on that from those sessions as well that I'd like to share with the group. So looking forward to talking to you on a more formal basis. I'm just introducing myself through public comments now, and I'm actually on vacation, so I probably won't sit through the entire meeting, but glad to meet everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Merrilee?
I'm just an observer, thanks.
All right, thanks for joining. Okay, thank you for that. Next item on the agenda is new business. We have nothing identified as new business for tonight, so we'll move on to old business. And the first item here is the citizen survey. Tom, I'd like if you could just give a little update on where that sits. I know we've done some beta testing recently, so interested to see what your
Yep.
findings are.
Can I share my screen?
Yeah, I think Josh will have to make you a co-host.
Okay. Well, he does that. I'll start talking just to expedite the process. So we've done, we had another meeting. We've made some additional revisions to the survey, so you should be able to see it now. So one of the things that Cleone's referenced is at the top. It explains a little bit more of what we do, what the Charter Review Committee is, and why the questionnaire is here. Versus before, if you remember, it was a little blurb about that big. So now we have this whole section right here.
Nice.
And we've reworded some of the questions. The first, I shouldn't skip that. That's the link to the current town charter. It's easy. We've reworded some of the questions based on comments we had at the large group last time versus like the 1 to 5 scale, not familiar at all, somewhat familiar, very familiar. I choose not to answer this question, or I do not have enough information about this question. And then so an individual can pick really your rating on a scale of 1 to 3 at this point, and then 4 or 5 are opt out of answers. So we added those to the bottom, and that's pretty much it. We added some expanded the character limitations for questions 11, 12, and 13 to allow people to write as much as they want. There is no way for us to stop people from submitting more than once, but I don't really think that's too big an issue. It's not like we will have to follow if we find out that, you know, somebody wrote in a 500-page diatribe on question 13 or question 12. So there's that. So this is as it's the most updated version. If you want to go through it more, Ed, I'm happy to, but I think it's ready to go with one more review from Steve, Cleone, and I.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think it's probably good to go now, but
I do see a spelling error.
where you got it?
Question 12. Toy, what do toy?
Yep. So
You're thinking of your daughter.
I don't know, you might, did you run it through spell check anyways or not? It wouldn't have caught that anyways.
Yeah, I wouldn't have caught that, but I'm 100% sure that I didn't type that, so that's all I'm going to say about that.
Okay.
So that's it. So I guess other than that, I will share the link with the group. If you want to take a look at it, feel free. And then Cleone, Steve, and I will try to regroup one more time and then make it live. My hope would be that we could have it live next week and then leave it up for a month.
Great. Great. I think this is awesome. You guys have done a tremendous job here in the short time that you've been working on it. And, you know, hope and pray that we get some good data back, you know.
Yep. So then the only other outstanding item related to it is distribution. So obviously we said we're going to do social media. So put it on the major town Facebook groups and the Twitter. And then if anybody has access to various listservs they would like us to disseminate it to, we can do that as well.
Okay. And it'll be on the town website as well?
Yep.
A link like on their homepage or something?
I will get clarification from Brandon, but yeah, it's like one click deep into the webpage. So it follows the 3-click rule. It's not hard to find.
So let me ask you this. What if somebody's in the middle of filling this out and they run into, like, the screen freezes, or they run into some sort of technical issue in the middle of filling it out? My first question is what they've done been saved? So no, okay.
Nope.
So now they're going to have to go back in at some point whenever the issue gets resolved and do it over again.
Correct. I mean, it's honestly, so I've done it a couple times now. In questions 11, 12, and 13, I write the sentence, "The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog." So it has every character in the alphabet.
Yeah.
All in to type it out 3 times and answer each of the questions. It takes less than 2 minutes.
Great.
So.
Great. And then, as you said, the data is going to be stored somewhere on a server on the web in an Excel format?
So it's kind of Excel. It's Excel compatible. It's a comma separated value format.
Okay.
I won't
And
get too dirty.
will you guys have access to it before we close the door on it? or,
We can run, so my understanding is that we can run an updated report whenever we want. We just have to ask.
okay, great, great.
So, I mean, it might be worth it to run it once a week, and if we start seeing large volumes of comments, aggregate ahead of time, but.
Yeah. Okay. Well done, guys. Nice job. Anyone else want to give any feedback at this point?
I just want to reiterate that once he sends the link to everyone on the committee, to make sure that you only select no, or write a very short answer that basically is no. So none of the data that you put in there is something that we should be collecting.
Right, like if you have comments you want to make, I think, Steve, right, like
Yeah.
that you actually want to respond to the survey, wait till it's live to the general public.
Yeah, don't do it right now.
I'm still not totally clear. You mean if we personally want to fill it out?
If yes,
Right.
if
So
we
before it's live, he's going to send it to you so that you
Yeah.
can look at it on your computer. But while you have it on your computer, do not fill it out as if you would typically fill it out. Only fill it out as if, like, every question is no, 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 no. Don't fill it out with your information, because then we're collecting your information right now.
Oh, okay. Okay, gotcha. Great. Okay, I'm just trying to think if there are any other potential pitfalls we might face along the way that we should be prepared for. But it seems like you've done a lot of, dotting the i's and crossing the t's here. I can't think of anything else. So I just want to make sure, is the data going to be backed up? What's their backup process? Because I don't want to have, 200 or 300 surveys put out there and then lose the data. That's all. I want to make sure it's being backed up.
I mean, I'll confirm with Brandon that they have something in place. I don't know if we have any authority to tell them they need it to be better than what it
Okay.
is.
Well, let's understand at least what it is, right?
I would imagine it's on their town's website. So I imagine they have a cron job that runs every day, 24 hours. So.
Good assumption, Steve, but you never know. All right. So you're saying within. Go ahead, Cleo.
I was saying that I did have some notes that said that, town employees can help with the marketing strategy and to disseminate the survey. So when we think about how to disseminate it, there's some resources in the town that can be of assistance.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit? With, like, if you're deciding in a week you're going to go live with this, what would you do?
Whatever mechanism that they have to share information townwide, I get water breakage or whatever. I think that's what my notes indicate, that they can help to do a townwide blast. Or we were going to inquire if they could do a townwide blast, that this survey is available.
Is that something we should just ask Mike Dutton to handle for us?
Yeah.
Okay. So Tom, when you're ready to go live, then why don't you just send an email to Mike, copy us.
Yep.
And say, would appreciate your help in disseminating this townwide, whatever. Yep. Great.
And then
awesome.
Ed, do you want to put it on the Facebook group? Do you want me to put it on the Facebook group?
You can put it on.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be great. And there's two Facebook groups that I'm aware of, is Bridgewater Residents and Bridgewater 02324.
Yeah, I think there's 5 that are active. There are 6 total that we identified, and some of them are more niche ones. But I still think it doesn't cost us anything, and it's more exposure, right? So.
Sure, great. All right. Very good. So you'll let us know when the exact live date is, right?
Yep. So I just got this final revision back around 3:30 this afternoon. So Cleone, Steve, and I have to talk one more time and then get it.
Awesome. All right. Thanks again. Now, part of this was also a personal interview set of questions. Have you guys discussed that at all at this point, or just the survey?
Just the survey.
Okay. Do we want to discuss that now? You think now's the time to do it, or do we want to wait on that? So this was going to be a list of questions that we were going to use as an outline, if you will, for when we interview some of the key town, personnel.
So I would be looking to replicate as many questions that make sense that's on the survey.
Okay. Does somebody want to take a crack at drafting a version of what we could at least have a discussion on? I think I had actually sent you all, I believe, something that we used back on the Town Government Study Committee when we did our interviews, as something to at least look at and think about.
I can take a stab at trying to draft something.
Okay, that'd be good. I mean, you got a couple of weeks to do it, Scott, so before our next meeting. And you got a copy of what I sent out? At least, do you remember that?
If I don't, I'll send you an email.
Okay, great. All right, so that'll be on an action item for our next meeting, is we'll review a draft of our personnel interview document, and Scott will look at that.
Hey, Ed.
Yeah.
I'm not sure we're allowed to do this. Marilee has a question. Can we allow her to ask a question?
Sure. Why not?
Thanks, I'll be brief. I just wonder about the survey, if it's all online, you're going to be leaving out a demographic of people who don't have computers and who don't use Facebook or social media. Are you going to have some hard copies that could be distributed places?
Yep. So we talked about that, Marilee. The only problem is we don't know where to put them because there's nowhere that's open.
I get that. It's one of the places that isn't open.
Can we leave them at the town clerk's office?
You may. The thing is, I'm wondering if you can put a notice in the Buzz, like the Buzz around Bridgewater, the Independent. Maybe you can get a reporter at the Enterprise to do a story on you that you're doing this. And then you could put our phone number in there, and people could stop by, and we could hand them the survey, or we could mail it out to them.
Okay.
Don't tell my staff I said this to you, because we're absolutely overwhelmed right now with the primary election. So I can't even imagine what it's going to be like starting the end of September for the general election. So don't rat me out, but that's what we can do. And I'm guessing the library might be willing to do the same thing.
Fair
Okay.
enough. Thank you.
Don't tell them I said that either, just keep us between
Right.
us. It's a public meeting. I get it. It's a public meeting. I'm joking,
Yeah. No, that's good feedback, Marilee. Thank you for bringing that up.
I'll be
Appreciate
quiet
it.
now.
So Tom, you're going to run with that?
Yep, I'll take care of both of those.
Great. Awesome. Thank you. All right. Any more discussion on either the survey or the interview? If not, we'll move to the next item, which is under the category of committee planning. First thing I wanted to do is just review with you a first cut of a tool that I've been thinking about, something that we can utilize as we start comparing recommendations from not only the 2014 CRC, but what came out of the town council in 2017, and then ultimately what came back from the state legislature. We got to have some means of looking at something and seeing a way to compare things. So, Josh, can I share my screen?
Yeah, you should have the ability already.
All right, let me see if I can pull that up. Can you guys see it?
It's very small, at least for me it is.
Let me see if I can make it bigger. Hold on.
It's full screen for me.
How's that?
That's smaller for me.
Is it that smaller?
I'll make some adjustments here. So if it's clearly me then.
Okay. I sent you each a copy of this anyway, so you can look at
That's
it.
right.
But so I'm interested in getting some feedback from you on whether you think this is something that will work or something like it might work. But the idea is to be able to have a spreadsheet like this where we would have all the recommendations listed down the left side. And what I've done is I've actually pre-populated this with the recommendations from the baseline 2014 CRC. So everything that we got from Carlton, I've put into this document already. So you see the recommendation on the left, and then the column that says article is really the section of the charter that it applies to. Okay. Then the next series of columns is what I'm calling the source. So where did this recommendation come from? So in this case, it came from the 2014 CRC. I've added a column for the Town Council 2017 Rules and Procedure, a column for the legislature, and then ultimately another column for us because we may have some new or additional recommendations that we're going to make. Then I have a type column, and basically here is to say, is the recommendation in addition, is it a modification, or is it a deletion or removal? Then the next two columns are going to be our votes. Remember we talked about we're going to vote twice on each recommendation. So first column would be our first vote, second column would be our second vote. Then the last two columns are what we're recommending the process be to implement this recommendation. So this either would be go through the amendment process or it would go through the Home Rule Petition Special Act, yes or no. So there may be additional information that we want to capture, but this was my first go at it. I think there's 3 pages here. Let me just scroll down. I don't know why it's not letting me scroll, but what are your initial thoughts on this?
Initially, I think this is beautiful. I think it's awesome. Real clean, real easy to read and understand. I like it.
I'm a fan.
Yeah, I like it as well. A sigh of relief, because I'm like, how do you even tackle this? And I'm all about tools that can be replicated and provide some transparency. So the recommendation additional column I would like to suggest is a column that kind of talks about why the recommendation is of value, right? Like we're recommending this because of something, and providing a blank copy, another column for if it's not adopted by the, rules and procedures, that they give a reason why it is adopted or if it's endorsed. So just kind of a column that captures the rationale behind any of the recommendations, whether it be an addition, modification, or deletion.
So you're saying add one column that would sort of be a rationale column.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think that's a good recommendation. Obviously, the challenge that we have here is that the more columns we add, the smaller this gets and the more difficult it's going to be to read it. But I certainly think adding another one to put some rationale is workable. I think that
So this is not a spreadsheet? This will not be a spreadsheet?
This is a spreadsheet right now. It's an Excel spreadsheet.
Okay, so it'll expand. It won't necessarily just be a skinny column. You just kind of scroll.
Well, yeah, but I mean, as far as adding columns, if I want to keep it to a single page view,
so
it doesn't creep the width of the spreadsheet is going to be impacted by how many columns we have. So right now the font type on this I think is 10, which a lot of documents are 10, 11, 12 in that range. If we start going below 10 so we can fit more data on this, it's going to be hard on the eyes to look at it. But let me take a crack at that, Cleone, because I think that has a lot of value. It's just a question of how much text, how much verbiage are we going to add in there,
Ed, in terms of fitting stuff in there, I am happy to help you with that because there's like 5 spots in there I can see off the top of my head of how you could shrink that down.
Okay. Okay.
So
by the way, I've got the margin set at minimal, so
yeah.
that's one.
Like that entire type thing where you have it addition, modification, or deletion, you could make that one column. We'll chat.
We'll chat. Okay, good. Awesome.
And you could also change the type of paper. You don't have to use 8.5 by 11. You could use a legal size paper.
Oh, we would never do that. Absolutely, we could do that, Scott. Great. Steve, you had your hand up?
Nope, sorry, it's all good.
Okay. So besides adding a rationale column, anything else, any changes? Because once we start populating this, which, you know, I've obviously started doing right now, we don't want to get it sort of fully populated and then have to go back and rechange it. It's going to be a lot of work. So I'd rather kind of start with something that we really all agree on and then go from there.
Leonie mentioned the rules and procedures, voting on it as well, being a column. I think I would rather that versus a rationale, because if you put a rationale column in there, it's going to be whose rationale, because my rationale might be different than Tom's versus yours versus Cleone's.
And couldn't you just look it up in the minutes from a previous meeting as to how it ended up or not ended up there?
Well, maybe it's more like a reason. Like she said initially, the why. Why would you want to have, for example, why would you want to have, you know, stipends for the town council? You know, I mean, a reason why it's even out there.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. So my reason for saying yes or even saying no might be different than your reason. And so
we would have to come to consensus, right? We would be doing a vote when we propose a change. So it would be a consensus as to the change. It wouldn't, I'm not looking to capture individual feelings about a change. It would be a consensus that we would have to vote on before we can adopt it.
Could I make a recommendation to kind of hit both parties? To Steve's point of not adding too much to the spreadsheet, what if we had a column that says this was discussed or determined to be a recommendation or not at this meeting, and then it just lists the meeting date. And if someone wanted to go back and watch the recorded meeting or look at the minutes to see how we got to that rationale, they could do that, ourselves included.
Are you? Go ahead, Cleone.
I think for me, right, this process is, when you first start, it seems like there's so many moving parts, and you get a document that's drafted and edited. I'm really looking not just for a process that satisfies our need, but is a process that informs moving forward, making it a more streamlined process. So the more times you have to refer to something else versus adding a column, I think that creates a barrier that makes it more complicated, because our work gets moved on to a different committee. And so I'm looking for something that is a comprehensive document that folks can reference and say, you know, this is the issue that this change is looking to address. What is the impact of this change? And so that you can just reference one document to see the sequence of events, just to try to streamline and also provide a recommendation that will be considered and not easily dismissed if it's all in one document.
But do you need to add a column? Could you just add a second page to this and have a rationale for each one listed on a page rather than in the column? Because if you have to put the rationale is going to take a substantial amount of text, it's just going to kill the value of a one-pager.
Yeah. You're saying if we added a column that then referred to maybe another page in the either this
like
document,
just the next page.
Yeah, see page 1 or see page 2 for rationale.
Yeah,
that's certainly one option. I mean, you're not referring them to another document, at least it's within the same document. I'm wondering
yeah, I could see that.
I just isn't that the whole point of like the minute meetings though, is to like, they go over, I mean, it's basically that's the living document of what we do here at the meeting. And the column that he has up here as the approval is yes or no. That is the rationale behind us saying that this is a recommendation. I mean, that's kind of the way that I view it, so.
Well, that just means that as a committee, we agree with this recommendation. It doesn't really mean, it doesn't answer the question for the public, why.
Right,
Why-
so if they want to know our reason behind coming to that, then they need to read the minutes or be a part of these meetings, which they are more than welcome to do.
Yeah,
Right, I maybe change the yes, no to a date and say 2020 CRC approval number 1, and then instead of yes, no, date, and then 8/19/2020 or 9/4/2020.
okay, so that just tells when we voted on it. It doesn't give anyone, I mean, again, the other thing is, where is this document going? I mean, I originally thought this would just be a tool for us.
Right.
I didn't necessarily think this was going to be a document that would be disseminated necessarily, you know, and used for other things. It's a tool for us to help us do our job.
And if that's the case, then it wouldn't matter. It doesn't matter if you put the rationale in there, but I was thinking more if this was a document that other people would have access to, and they're using that as, well, trying to figure out what our rationale is behind it. But if it's just within us, it doesn't matter. You can put as many in there as you want.
Yeah, I mean, eventually when we issue our final report, this might be in the appendix of our final report. It might be a detail, in the detail of how we came to our conclusions or something, you know? But like Cleone said, trying to wrap your head around everything that we need to do and coordinate it and keep it structured so we can make sense of it and not get lost. We need something like this. So,
And I guess, so in what you're saying, right, so there's a tool for us to document our decision. I guess when I saw this, I thought it would serve multiple purpose, a way to track our recommendations, as well as a tool to pass on to the committee that will essentially be reviewing our work, and then a tool that can be used to educate the community, because there's a point where some of these things will have to come up for a vote. And so what I'm trying to capture, and maybe I didn't use this language, I would like to capture and somehow to both educate the committee that will review our work and the community, would be a brief description, and I probably got this from somewhere, a brief description of the issues addressed by the proposed change and what benefits will be realized by the citizens or the government. So that when I say rationale, it's kind of answering those questions so that folks on like a quick review guide can be able to evaluate the merits of a recommendation. Because what I'm really trying to do is to protect the time and energy that we're putting forth and having our recommendations be an easy yes, period, right? Because we don't want to go through all this work and then have people need to jump through hoops to find out, how does this change benefit the town? How does this change benefit the charter? So however we can package it to preserve and honor our time and energy commitments, so people can easily replicate the decision that we came to, I think that would be in our best interest. So that's what I'm trying to capture, whether it be this document for our purpose or another document that is that you can disseminate, that people can easily digest.
and I guess what I'm thinking, Cleone, is that there would be another document that perhaps would derive information from this document that would serve a different purpose, that we would use to either educate or, transfer information from our committee. This is clearly just for our own internal use, to help us be better organized about what we're doing with these recommendations.
So the presentation that you sent us that Bill Wood did for the last Charter Review Committee, I thought that was a great presentation, and I think that would serve a better purpose versus an additional column in here that kind of gives a very brief description of why we came to a decision,
Right, so that
we went into every single article or recommendation that they had and then why they chose to do that.
Yeah, so that document is definitely a source of information that we have that we will use, but obviously there are others as well, and some of those we may or may not agree with. So I actually like the idea of putting something, maybe an addendum to this or down the bottom, like Tom suggested, where we, we capture that value or rationale information about each recommendation. I think it needs to be captured. It's just a question of how do we capture it? Do we add another column, which could be problematic, or do we put it somewhere else and have a reference point in this here, like Tom said, either the date or something, or the page, we have a reference that then points to the rationale for it.
Can I just ask a quick question? So when I'm setting up this motion, did you want to have a specific name for the decision matrix? Do you want it to be the Charter Review Committee recommendation decision matrix in the motion?
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, that's what I called it, unless somebody wants to change the name. I couldn't think of a better name for it. I mean, maybe we will change it down the road, but for right now.
Maybe just the CRC decision matrix, just for
Decision matrix.
decision matrix. Yeah, CRC decision matrix.
Okay,
I just want to make sure I capture it in the motion.
that's fine. CRC decision matrix, yeah.
Okay, and I will do the roll call vote. Start with you, Ed.
Yes.
Cleone,
Yeah.
Steve,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
thank you, and Tom.
Yes.
Thank you. As passed.
Okay, thank you. All right, how about some modifications. We talked about replacing the yes, no under the approvals with a date. And we talked about adding a column for rationale, but then we talked about maybe putting that as a separate page below that you could scroll down and read that information if you wanted to.
Yep.
Were there any other modifications?
I prefer the one where it's a separate page, just so that it's easier to read. That'd be my recommendation.
Okay.
When you say source of the recommendation, or what? I didn't really.
So where the recommendation came from. So in this case, the recommendation that's listed there right now, these are all coming from the 2014 CRC.
Is it appropriate here to indicate that the source of the recommendation came from survey results or interviews, or that's not what this document does?
Yeah, this document does not do that.
Okay.
This really is telling which organization or which group has proposed the recommendation.
But so if you added another recommendation, if after the survey comes back, Cleone, I think Ed would add another row, and then it would say article, whatever, and the source would be the 2020 CRC, and then in the bottom it would say, this was discovered during the survey, here's the rationale for why we're recommending it. So they would just get an X box X in that column.
All right, thank you.
Very good.
You can tell me if I'm wrong, Ed. I didn't want to step on your toes.
I'm shaking my head. Okay, well, we may decide to come up with some further modifications, but at least for the time being, I'll make a motion to modify the yes, no to dates under the approval, and adding rationale information below. And we'll figure out how to do that. It'll either be by date or by page number or something, but that would be that would be what my motion would be, if it's clear.
Ed, I could be wrong, but I don't think the chair is allowed to make a motion.
Oh, all right.
I, Thomas Golden, motion for whatever Ed just said.
I didn't understand what you were saying either, Ed. Can you repeat that one more time?
Sure. Someone make a motion to approve the following modifications. Change the yes, no under both the approval columns to the date that the approval is made. And then add rationale information for each recommendation somewhere in the document to be determined where.
So I, Steve Purcell, motion that the CRC approval number 1 and number 2 be changed from yes, no to a date, as well as adding a column for a rationale behind each decision.
You sure you want to say that? You said add a column.
Oh, I'm sorry, add a page. To a separate page, rationale. I'm sorry. Josh, did you get that?
Josh, you want to read that back?
Yep, I was just kind of trying to put it into some words here. So Steve motioned to change the yes, no to a date, correct?
Under
Yes.
the approval.
Under the approval, okay. And to add a page for rationale information. Do you want a separate page?
Yes.
And he said for each recommendation. Oh, well.
Well, let me read this back. So Stephen Purcell motion to change the yes, no to a date under the approval and to add a separate page for rationale information for each recommendation.
That's right.
I, Cleone Mainville, approve or agree, approve. Second. I, Cleone Mainville, second.
Okay, any further discussion on the motion?
No.
All right, Josh?
Sure. Ed,
Yes.
Leonie,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
thank you. It was approved.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, so I think we're pretty much done with this discussion for now. I'll make those changes. And well, I guess the next thing is I can start populating the source under the 2017 rules and procedure because we have that information, so I can start populating that unless someone else wants to do it.
Nope.
No, okay. So before the next meeting, hopefully I'll have that one done and maybe even some of the 2018 legislature because I have that document as well. And maybe even take a crack at doing some of the rationale as well. Tom, you and I can sync up on the look and feel of the document, okay?
Yep.
Great.
And Ed, I had some ideas about the rationale, like kind of make sure it's a structured rationale. So I'd like to coordinate with you and share those ideas.
Perfect. So for each recommendation, we'd have the same structure for how the rationale is portrayed, right? Nice.
Exactly.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Great. You can tell you're a systems person, Cleone. You want everything to.
That's what I do. Needs to be replicated and be able to replicate, and someone can kind of walk through the same process and see why we came to that decision.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to share with you. Next is the schedule. So this is the page that was presented at the council meeting on August 3rd. By the way, you all got my email with the feedback on that, right? I thought I sent something out just letting you know it went well. I think it's re-energized the whole discussion around the charter. So I think the timing was right to do that, and we'll be given multiple opportunities to get back with the council and give updates and get feedback from them. So I'm looking forward to working with all the council members on this. I think it'll be exciting. Okay, so this was the page that really talked about our next steps. Can you all see it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we said we're going to hopefully finalize a schedule by the end of this month, complete our data gathering by the end of September, which included the survey, interviews, and put together a couple of public forums. The citizen education material by the end of the month, ongoing communication, the phased rollout per the schedule, and the final report. So some of these items we need to start working on now if we're planning to, meet the end of September. I'm not, the more I think about it in terms of finalizing a schedule, I'm not sure what that is actually going to look like, to be honest with you right now. When I originally thought about this, it was really a schedule that would indicate when we were planning to make our recommendations, both using the amendment process and using the special act process. I'm not sure we're going to have enough information in the next 2 weeks to actually, finalize that. What do you all think?
I agree. I think it's too early for us to know.
I mean, we can put some, targets out there and just say these are estimated or desired targets. Whether or not they become reality is another question.
I hate target dates that are public
Yeah.
or firm.
Well, I mean, there's nothing wrong with pushing this out. We could push it out and just say we don't have enough information yet to actually finalize the schedule.
Will the schedule be affected by having a full member? Are there parts of our work that cannot be executed unless we have a full committee?
Well, I mean, that's a good point. We're minus one person, so we're only running on 6 cylinders, right, instead of 7. So that definitely has an impact. Well, why don't we, I mean, at this point, why don't we all just think about this some more, and I think as we get more data, as we get more information, I think the schedule is going to become clearer to us. I'm with Tom. I don't want to necessarily make any public dates. I mean, this is one date that's been made that's public. We're going to come up with a schedule by the end of the month, but I don't want to specifically identify deliverables that we don't feel we have a good way of achieving those deliverables until we have, confidence that we can make those dates. So I think we need more time on that one. The data gathering, the citizen survey, we should have that completed on or before the end of the month, right, Tom?
That is the goal.
Okay. The personal interviews, I mean, if we get this draft done by the next meeting and then we approve it, then we can start scheduling the meetings. I guess we could actually start scheduling the meetings anytime now, so that we have at least have them on the calendar and we can start conducting those in September.
Are we doing the meetings in addition to them filling out a questionnaire, or I wanted to understand the relationship between the questionnaire and the actual interviews?
Yeah, so I think what we had decided earlier, Cleone, I'm glad you mentioned this, is that we're going to send something out, and then based on the responses, determine which people we were going to actually interview, right?
That's what I recall.
Uh-huh. Okay. Is there any reason to change that now, or to still use that same approach?
I propose using that same approach. I guess my question, when you said schedule the interviews now, I'm like, we don't know who we want to interview until we get those questionnaires back.
That's true.
Because we wanted to use the interviews to help us answer any questions that we had based on the questionnaires.
Right, that's true. Yeah, if we're satisfied that we got all the answers back from somebody via the questionnaire, then there's no need to interview them unless we have additional questions after the fact. Okay, all right, so with that, we can't schedule anything yet. That's, you answered that question. And then we talked about having some public forums, which really is to provide education about what we're doing, why we're doing it, and you know, I guess we can also gather some feedback at those forums as well. It might be worth actually picking a couple of dates now, so that at least we have them on the calendar and we can reserve the space to hold them and publicize the events, and then we can work behind the scenes to, you know, get the agendas and everything formulated. So you think we can pick a couple of dates tonight for some couple of public forums?
Sure.
I think that would be a great idea to do.
You think 2 would be enough?
I was kind of thinking 3, one in the beginning, middle, and end, because if I recall, we're going to be rolling out our recommendations as we see them, right? Not in a bulk. And I think that perhaps people will get a little bit more educated as well. So I don't know if that would be too much. I would suggest that if we do get the dates, that we can include that in our information as we update, you know, we send out the survey. You know, in addition to the survey, we have 2, 3 upcoming forums that we invite you to.
Yeah, okay. So just to be clear, these forums, we're not really planning to make any recommendations. This is really to educate them on what we're doing and why we're doing it.
Understood.
Yeah, the recommendations would come much later on. So, all right, I've got my September calendar here. So one assumption is these would be in some evening, right? We wouldn't necessarily do it on a weekend.
No.
All right, so we do it on an evening. Now, the other thing is, who knows about whether or not we're going to be able to do these face-to-face, or they'll just be a Zoom call, right?
I mean, Ed, can I ask a question? If it's going to be a Zoom call, why not just add it to an agenda item to a regularly scheduled meeting?
We could, but we don't have enough information to know that at this point. I mean, maybe they'll let us actually have a meeting in September. I think the fallback plan should be we could either do it as part of these meetings, or we set up a separate dates. I think my feeling right now is we should set up 3 separate dates, assuming we'll have physical face-to-face meetings. If that doesn't happen, then the fallback is we can have them at this meeting. Is that okay?
And yeah, and despite the fact that I don't like doing these kinds of things on the weekend, we should, right? Because we want it to be at least one on the weekend to make it accessible. So I'm looking to propose a morning, evening, and a weekend, just to be able to make it accessible to a variety of people based on their schedules. And I will volunteer to sit for the weekend if we need at least one committee member.
Okay, so the weekend one should be in the morning probably, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then the 2 others should be evenings, probably?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk dates. So we have, our meetings are scheduled right now for the 2nd and the 16th. September is a 5 weeks, so we potentially could have another additional meeting in September if we wanted to. I am actually not going to be able to make the meeting on the 2nd. That was one of the things I was going to discuss at our next meeting, whether we still have it and have Cleone run it, or whether we change the date from the 2nd. But
So the 16th, school starts for families here. So that might be difficult for families, but we also will have 2 additional dates. So I don't know if that matters, that it's the first day of school here
Okay.
in Bridgewater Arena.
Let's pick the Saturday date first. That's probably the easiest one, right? You want to go with the 12th or the 19th?
Can I propose that the weekend date be chosen as late as we can? Because with the weather being nice, we're less likely to get people attending. And in September, it still is. Thinking about the families who, you know, weekends come and we're out and about. And yeah, so.
Okay. So what would you propose then, the 26th?
Sure.
I actually will not be here for any in-town meetings in September. I'll be in Ohio for the presidential debate.
Lucky you. Really, for the whole month, huh?
Yep.
Wow. Wow.
And I also want to make clear that, you know, the virtual meetings are really helpful for me. The more in person these meetings become, I won't be able to participate as much as I do now. So I'm really banking on virtual, not 100% of the time, but the majority of the time.
Okay. Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, obviously, I think the desire is to have as many of our committee members at these forums as possible. No, but no understanding that everybody's got different schedules, right?
Yeah.
So,
I can make an in-person meeting on the 26th, just to let you know.
okay, then let's put that one, the 26th, as one of our meetings. And that's going to you want to have it at 10 a.m. or 9 a.m.?
10 works great.
10 a.m. Okay. Okay. And now let's go back and look at the evening meetings.
And you're running these for an hour, right? Is that the goal?
Yeah, probably an hour. I would envision maybe a 10 or 15 minute presentation and then open it up. It might not even go an hour. I mean, we don't know how many people are going to show up either, you know, so. So you want to try, so we're supposed to meet on the 2nd. You want to try for a night the next week? Now, let me ask a question too. Josh, if we do Zoom calls for these public forums, are you going to be available to help us with those? I guess.
So I mean, if I get a, you know, I'm just looking at the rest of September calendar here. If I get enough notice, then I should be able to. I promise not to go on any more week-long vacations. But yeah, I mean, September's pretty open for me. So I
Is
should
there one night of the week? Oh, so like you don't have any commitments right now on certain committees that you're doing during the weeks?
I mean, I do have the regular committee meetings. So Mondays are just completely off the table. And then I would say Wednesday, the 23rd should be the CPC. So that would be off the table as well.
All right, so if we did during the week of the 6th, if we did, since we're not meeting that week as a committee, we could do maybe the 8th, the 9th, or the 10th. Would any of those dates be bad for you?
Nope, those actually be good for me.
And how about for the committee? Any of the 8th, the 9th, or 10th?
Works fine for me.
Is there a preference?
The 9th, I prefer the 9th. Otherwise, I will have to be, it needs to wrap up by 8 o'clock on the 8th and 10th.
Okay, then let's do the 9th. Then we have a meeting on the next week, the 16th. And then the following week, we're doing the 26th. We could do something the following week if we wanted to push it out even further, like the 29th, Tuesday, the 29th, have our last Zoom, have a Zoom call that date.
Is this in lieu of the 9th or in addition to the 9th?
In addition to, we're gonna have 3 meetings. Wednesday, the 9th, Saturday, the 26th, and now we're just trying to find our last date for the last public forum.
Oh, I'm sorry, public forum, okay.
So can I ask a question? And this is just me. If we're doing it at night via Zoom anyway, like on the 9th, why are we adding a special hour for that when we have meetings the week before and after, where we could just add it to that agenda? Because it seems redundant to me. I don't know. Like, I understand if we were doing it in person, I think it would be different. But like, if we're gonna do it on Zoom anyway, why not just extend that invite as part of the weekly agenda?
Yeah, well, I guess I was initially thinking that these would be in-person meetings if possible.
I think the 9th to be in person is really optimistic, Ed.
Why?
I don't know if everything's gonna be open and we'll be allowed to do that yet.
Okay, no, I hear you.
I mean, I understand, like, I as much as the next person want to be able to get back to going places other than Curve Street, but
Yeah,
I would say if they give us the permission to open up, then schedule the third one non-Zoom style, like in-person style.
yeah. Well, I mean, the other thing is we actually make it better attendance if we have it on Zoom than if we have a face-to-face. People don't have to travel to the center of town, right? So maybe we just make that decision and that we're going to do virtual public forums.
And if we are, I do agree with Tom about just piggybacking off of an existing meeting then.
Okay,
I think we should piggyback. I do think having an in-person one, to touch on Mary Lee's earlier point of like people without access to a computer right now, setting up like the one on the Saturday, the 10 o'clock one in person, I think is a great idea. Other than that, add it to the agenda. That way, if someone wants to chat and they don't have access to a computer and they don't want to call into a Zoom meeting, they can show up in person.
okay.
So
So the 26th will be in person. Hopefully we can do that. And then the other 2 that will piggyback our current meetings.
I think that's an excellent plan.
Thanks for mentioning it. All right, so our meetings were the 2nd and the 16th. I'm not sure, actually, I would propose doing one on the 16th and then adding one on the 30th, since we have 5 Wednesdays in September.
I agree.
I'm not sure we'll be prepared to have something ready to go on the 2nd. And plus, I can't make it. I'm not going to be around.
What if we didn't have a meeting on the 2nd and we just had a 16th and the 30th, and then on the 30th at that meeting, we would, in theory, be closing the survey so we could hit both things at the same time?
Well, that's certainly an option, Tom. I'm just thinking that, having another meeting we've got a lot of work. So I mean, just saying we're going to cancel a meeting and then add both of these forums to our current meetings. We're essentially cutting ourselves time where we could be working on other things. That's all.
I just think you already have X section for public comment, right? We don't get a lot of people that turn out to that, so that's my only thought.
Okay. All right. Anyone else? How do you feel about just canceling the 2nd and doing the 16th and the 30th, and we'll take an hour of each of those meetings for public forum?
That works better for me.
Scott, how are you feeling about this?
Yeah, that works for me.
You have a preference, or is that the best scenario, you think?
Yeah, I think canceling the second and, just picking up from there is fine.
Okay.
Yeah, the debate's actually on the 29th, so I should be off on the 30th.
Will you be awake though?
That is yet to be determined. We'll see.
Okay. Do we need a motion for all this? Just, I mean, if somebody can,
The meeting
if somebody
schedule is set by the chair, so
what's that, Scott?
He said the meetings get
the
set. by the third.
meetings are set by the chair and by our prior motion, so.
Okay. So you're saying we don't need a motion?
I don't think we do. If on the second, we're not going to have a quorum and we're going to cancel it, then there's no point in keeping that a secret. And then any additional meetings the chair can call.
Okay. Okay, then we'll just go with what we discussed then. We'll have our meeting on the 16th, an additional meeting on the 30th, and each of those meetings, we will dedicate an hour of the time to have a public forum. So that gives us about a month now, roughly a month to develop some material for the public forums. I'd be happy to go back and look at some of the stuff that we did with the Town Government Study Committee, because some of it is certainly pertinent to this, the rationale, why we're doing some of this stuff, whatever. I could put together a handful of slides, a draft, and send that out. Or if someone else wants to do it, I'm happy to let someone else do it.
And Bill mentioned he has some slides that he was offering as well.
We
Did
actually
I
have
understand
that.
it correctly? Oh, we
Yeah,
have those.
We have
Okay,
that.
great.
We have that, and we have the actual detailed recommendation, the
Oh,
charter.
perfect.
So yeah, we can include some of those slides as well. Okay, so I will take, if no one else wants to own this, I'll take an action item to come up with a draft short presentation to sort of guide the public forum. Now, we also talked here on this slide about developing some education material. Some of that can piggyback onto what we use for the public forum. It might, I don't know, Cleone, I think you and I had talked, were the ones that talked about this. We probably need to flesh it out a little bit more in terms of, what it might look like. Is it just a, a fold out? I mean, is this something we're going to have to actually produce some sort of a document like Merrill Lee was saying to make available to the public, both online and in, hard copy?
Yeah. I mean, I had thought it would be one and the same. The public forum slides that we would use, that visual, would be the same that we would use for the material. We might just need a cover letter to be included in the hard copies, but as much as we can utilize the same slides for both, that would be great.
Okay, so you're envisioning having a small packet of material.
Just a hard copy of the slides that we use for the public forums. If we get on Bridgewater TV, they can play the slides, maybe even just videotape the forum and have Bridgewater TV disseminate that, really trying to streamline, our efforts. So yeah, having the physical material be a copy of the slides that we use during the public forum.
Okay,
and maybe recording that. Mm-hmm.
And I'll reach out to Jeff Fowler at BTV and maybe see if we can, see if they can, I don't know if they can tape a Zoom call. I guess they could. I don't know. Talk to him about getting something on BTV that they can put on Facebook or something that would also disseminate this information. So that's something I'll follow up on. Okay. So anything else that anybody can think of relative to this slide, next steps that we are, committing to deliver between now and the end of September? I wanted to at least make sure we had a plan and we had, some identified responsibility for some of these items.
When
So
would be the September Town Council meeting? Would we be ready for that?
Say that again.
I see here standing agenda item. I've lost track as to when the September Town Council meeting would be.
Oh, it's the 8th, September
Okay.
8th. So I'm not sure we would have anything really new to report when we just, we delivered this report on the 3rd. I'd rather, if I'm going to speak or you speak, whoever speaks, I'd rather have some tangible information to share with them. So maybe what we do is we get on to the October meeting, or unless they're going to have they might have 2 meetings in September. I'm not sure. We can check on that.
Yeah, and we would have disseminated the survey already.
Yep.
At least we'd have that. We would have had 3 weeks, 3 weeks time of gathering some data.
Yep.
From that survey. We should have the interview worksheet completed and disseminated. But that's just about it, I think. And we would have the public forum schedule. So that's 3 things that we could give an update on.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Anything else on this? Okay. I'm going to unshare. There we go. That's it for old business. Why don't we move into public comment again? Bill wants to speak again. All right, go for it, Bill.
Hey, I guess I'm the only visitor here now. I'll make the offer that I made the other night in council. I found that as we went through the process last time, that a lot of people weren't even aware that we had the process going on. And there's been several other instances that even if you push information out through what seem to be popular social media, like the residents page, Facebook page, or other pages, that there's still a large audience, as Marilee said, that are kind of untouched by that vehicle, where it disappears quicker than they see it. Years ago, when we first formed the council, I put forward legislation to put a postcard out to the entire town to identify their local representative, as well as some key contact information. It wasn't that expensive to do the postcard. I don't know what kind of budget you guys have, but I'm certainly willing to sponsor or help get into the council arena anyway. A small amount of money somehow to get a postcard out. It doesn't need to be as detailed as you're talking about here, but just to say, this is the work we're doing, this is where it's located on the Bridgewater Town website, these are some other information links that you may find interesting, so that we can get every address in Bridgewater at least an introduction to the concept that this is going on, and they can find those other links if they so desire to investigate them. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for the input. We'll discuss it and determine if that's something we want to consider. All right, thank you. I don't see any other citizens on right now, so I guess we'll move on to the actions for the next meeting. I do want to let everyone know that the Secretary of the Library Board of Trustees, his name is Matt Gerritsen, reached out to me recently wanting to know how to submit recommendations that the library trustees are working on, primarily to update the section of the charter that relates to them. So I told him to submit them to us, and we would certainly entertain having them come and explain what they want to have changed. Ultimately, I said that we would vote on any changes, whether we agree with them or not. They would potentially end up being included, and if they didn't, I said then they could also be given to the council directly if they wanted to do it that way, but we would be the first, the door for them to at least come into the process. So he asked me when we needed them by, and I said, no huge rush, but if they could, get them to us in the next month or so, then that would be great. So he thanked me, and they're going to work on those, over the next month and hopefully get something to us. Okay.
Ed, can you circle back? Would you be able to circle back with them? Because I'd like to give them the same questions that we're going to provide to the other heads so that the format is easy and that however they answer the question can easily be plugged into that matrix that we're looking to consider. So if they can hold tight until we create that interview question, then we can capture their recommendations in the same format we're going to use with the other folks.
Okay, great suggestion. Yep, I will do that.
Thank you.
So action items for the next meeting. I think we're going to review the questionnaire that Scott's going to work on. We'll have to talk a little bit more about the decision matrix. I'm going to populate that more with additional recommendations from the Rules and Procedure Committee in 2017. I'm also going to hopefully come up with a draft for the public forum. I don't know if I'll, so our next meeting is actually the 16th, right? I was just thinking, I don't know if I'll have enough time by the 2nd, but since we have the 16th, we have plenty of time. Did I miss anything?
By the time we have the next meeting, we should have 2 weeks of data-ish for citizen survey.
Good. So we'll definitely have a discussion on that, maybe get an initial readout from you on what we're hearing from the town. That'd be great. I'm also going to talk to Jeff Fowler about getting some access through BTV to publicize stuff. Give some thought to what Councilman Wood mentioned earlier. If that's something we want to do, I can certainly talk to Mike Dutton to see if that's something we can work through his office on doing. And I mean, it's been done before, so we at least understand what the cost might be. And I mean, a postcard, when I think of a postcard, I think of a very small, almost like an index card. I don't know how much information we would be able to put on a postcard, but if we wanted to make a pamphlet, like a trifold pamphlet, I think we did that actually with the Town Government Study Committee. I don't know if that, would have a little bit more space using that approach. I don't know what if that would be the same cost. I mean, you could print an 8 by 10 piece of paper and just fold it. So give some thought to that. And if you have any further suggestions on that, we can communicate through email. Your thoughts on that. Obviously, we can't make any decisions, but think about it anyways. Okay, anyone else have any comments, additional comments for this evening? No? Okay. Someone like to make a motion to adjourn?
That's Steve Purcell, motion to adjourn.
I, Thomas Golden, second the motion.
Any discussion? Okay, Josh, roll call.
Ed?
Yep.
Cleone?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
All right, thank you all.
Thanks,
Thank
Jeff.
you, Josh, and I hope you guys
Take care.
enjoy the next month.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Talk to you soon.